A winter storm is barreling toward the eastern United States right now, and the numbers we are seeing are absolutely staggering. We are talking about 80 to 100 million people in the direct path of what could become one of the most significant winter events of the decade. But here is what nobody is telling you yet, and you need to hear this in the next 4 minutes. It is Monday, January 19th, 2026, and meteorologists are watching something develop that has not happened in years. The question everyone is asking, will this be snow, ice, or both? And more importantly, which one are you going to get? Because the difference between 6 inches of snow and half an inch of ice could mean the difference between a snow day and a week without power. Before we dive into the specifics, I need you to do something right now. Drop a comment below with your city and state, just your location. Because by the end of this video, you will know exactly what is headed your way, and I will be creating follow-up forecasts specifically for the areas that comment. This is not a drill. This is happening, and it is happening fast. Here is the first number that should grab your attention. Friday into Saturday, we have a 15% probability area stretching from Denver all the way to Kentucky. That is over 1,000 miles. Oklahoma City, Little Rock, Memphis, Nashville, and most of Kentucky are all in this zone. 15% might not sound like much, but in meteorology, when we are talking about winter storm probabilities 5 days out, 15% is massive. It means confidence is building. But wait, there is something even bigger coming. Do not click away yet, because what happens on Saturday into Sunday is going to affect 10 times more people. We will get to that in just a moment, but first you need to understand what is setting up right now. We have got cold air already in place across the central United States. Not just cold, Arctic cold. We are talking about 0 degrees Fahrenheit in Springfield, -9 in Chicago by Friday morning, and these are the actual temperatures without wind chill. Up in Minnesota and North Dakota, we could see wind chills approaching -50 degrees. Yes, you heard that right, -50 degrees Fahrenheit. But here is where it gets interesting, and this is the part that is going to determine whether you get snow or ice. Above that cold air, we have got a storm system that is going to pull very warm, moist air northward. Warm air on top, cold air on the bottom. And right where those two air masses meet, we are going to have what meteorologists call a transition zone. This is where things get nasty. Now let me give you the reward I promised at 30 seconds. Here is what you need to know right now, today, before this storm even begins. If you live anywhere from northeast Texas through Tennessee, Kentucky, and into the mid-Atlantic states, you need to prepare for the possibility of significant icing, not just a little bit of ice. We are talking about the kind of ice storm that brings down trees, snaps power lines, and leaves communities in the dark for days. The models are showing something that frankly concerns me. The GFS model, one of our primary forecasting tools, is painting a scenario where freezing rain could extend all the way down to the Gulf Coast. We are talking about Austin, San Antonio, potentially seeing freezing rain on Saturday. When is the last time you heard about freezing rain in San Antonio? Exactly. But here is the twist, and this is important. Not everyone is going to get ice. Some of you are going to get buried in snow. Heavy snow, the kind of snow that makes national news. Some models are spitting out numbers that I am not even comfortable saying out loud yet, because we are still several days out and things are going to change. But I will tell you this, we could be looking at more than a foot of snow in some areas, possibly close to 2 feet in the heaviest bands. So which one are you going to get? That is the million-dollar question, and the answer depends entirely on where you live. Generally speaking, the southern edge of this storm system is where we are expecting ice and sleet. The northern edge is where the heavy snow is most likely. But that line, that critical line between snow and ice, is going to shift. It is going to move. And where it ends up by Friday and Saturday is going to determine who gets what. Let me paint you a picture of what Saturday into Sunday is going to look like, because this is when the storm really explodes in size. We are looking at an area from northeast Texas and Louisiana all the way up through the Tennessee and Ohio valleys into the mid-Atlantic and even portions of New England. That is not a typo. This storm is going to be absolutely massive. The Day 6 outlook shows a 15% probability area that encompasses parts of 20 states. 20 states, from Texas to Maine. When was the last time you saw a single storm system threaten that much of the country with significant winter weather? And we are not talking about a dusting. We are talking about impactful, potentially crippling winter weather. Here is another number for you. The national blend of models, which takes the European model, the GFS, the Canadian model, and averages them all together, is showing a bullseye over Oklahoma and Kansas, where many locations could see more than 6 inches of snow. But that is not even the most impressive bullseye. Over in Virginia, the models are averaging together to show over a foot of snow in Richmond. Some individual model runs are showing close to 2 feet. Now, I know what you are thinking. Models are wrong all the time, right? And you are correct. They are, especially this far out, which is why I am not going to stand here and tell you exactly how much snow you are going to get or exactly where the ice is going to fall. That would be irresponsible, and I am not going to lie to you. But what I can tell you is that the signal is there. The ingredients are coming together, and confidence is increasing by the hour. Let me show you something that should really drive this home. By Sunday into Monday, we are still going to be dealing with this storm. It is a slow mover. And as it moves up the eastern seaboard, it is going to try to become what we call a nor'easter. For those of you along the Interstate 95 corridor from Washington, D.C. up to Boston, this is where things could get really interesting. If this storm phases just right, and I mean just right, we could see very, very significant snow in Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and New Jersey. Everything has to come together perfectly for that scenario. But the potential is there, the setup is there. And that is why we are watching this so closely. Now, here is something that is going to happen regardless of whether you get snow or ice. It is going to be cold, brutally cold, and it is going to stay cold for several days after the storm passes. Look at Sunday morning temperatures. We are going to have freezing temperatures all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Dallas could be in the teens. Oklahoma City could be in the teens. St. Louis at 17 degrees, and up through Illinois, Indiana, and into Michigan, we are looking at single digits. Why does this matter? Because if we do get a significant ice storm, and that is looking more and more likely for someone, those temperatures mean that the ice is going to stick around. We are not talking about one day of ice that melts the next afternoon. We are talking about ice that could persist for 3, 4, maybe 5 days in some locations. That is when you start having serious infrastructure problems. That is when you start seeing widespread power outages that last for days or even weeks. I do not want to scare you. That is not my goal here, but I do want you to be prepared. And here is what preparation looks like right now, 3 days before the storm begins. First, if you have not already done so, charge all of your devices. Make sure you have backup batteries, power banks, whatever you have got. If the power goes out, you are going to want to stay connected. Second, water. Not because the water is going to stop working necessarily, but because if you lose power and you have a well, you are not going to have running water. Fill up some containers now. Third, food. Non-perishable items that do not require cooking. If you lose power, you are not going to be able to use your electric stove or microwave. Fourth, and this is important, if you take any medications, make sure you have enough to last you at least a week. If roads become impassable, you do not want to be caught short. Fifth, fuel. If you have a generator, make sure you have fuel for it. If you do not have a generator, make sure your car has a full tank of gas. Your car can be a warming station if needed, and you do not want to be caught with an empty tank if you need to go somewhere. Now, I promised you at the beginning that I would tell you exactly what is headed your way, and we are getting to that. But first, let me tell you about something else that is happening tomorrow that you need to know about. We have got a severe geomagnetic storm forecast for Tuesday, January 20th. That is tomorrow. A coronal mass ejection from the sun is going to clip Earth, and we are under a G4 watch. What does that mean for you? Well, if you are up north, you might see the northern lights. Pretty cool, right? But it could also affect radio communications and GPS systems temporarily. I am telling you this not to alarm you, but because every time one of these space weather events happens, social media goes crazy with doomsday predictions. Let me be clear, this is not the end of the world. Your car is going to be fine. You do not need to unplug all your appliances. You do not need to panic. But if you have always wanted to see the aurora borealis, tomorrow night might be your chance, especially if you live in the northern United States. The lights could possibly be visible with a cell phone camera as far south as Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Texas. So keep an eye on the sky tomorrow night, and if you see something green and dancing across the northern horizon, that is what we are talking about. But let us get back to the winter storm, because that is the main event here. One of the models I looked at earlier today showed something that honestly does not look right to me. The GFS model is showing this storm as more of an overrunning event where moisture just kind of races eastward without really organizing into a strong system. I have tracked a lot of winter storms over the years, and I have never seen one behave quite like that. Other models are showing a more organized system that forms and then moves up the coast, which makes a lot more sense given the pattern we are in. This is why I am telling you that things are going to change. Tomorrow, the models are going to look different. Wednesday, they are going to look different again. By Thursday, we should have a pretty good handle on what is actually going to happen. But right now, on Monday evening, we are still in that period where the range of possible outcomes is pretty wide. Here is what we know for certain. A major winter storm is coming. It is going to impact a huge area. Tens of millions of people are going to be affected. Some of you are going to see significant snow. Some of you are going to see significant ice. And everyone in the path of this storm is going to see very cold temperatures. Here is what we do not know yet. Exactly where the heaviest snow is going to fall, exactly where the worst icing is going to occur, and exactly how much of each we are going to see. Those details are going to become clearer over the next 24 to 48 hours. This is the point in the video where I need you to do something. Remember at the beginning when I asked you to comment with your location? Now is the time. Drop a comment right now with your city and state. I am going to be creating specific updates for the most requested locations, and I want to make sure you get the information you need for where you live. Also, make sure you are subscribed to this channel with notifications turned on because we are going to be doing daily updates. In fact, as this storm gets closer and the details become clearer, we might do 2 updates per day. And when this storm is actually happening, we are going to go live so you can get real-time information as the situation develops. Now, let me give you some context about why this storm is such a big deal. It is not just the size of the area affected, although that is certainly significant. It is the combination of factors that are coming together. First, you have got the intense cold. Wind chills of negative 50 degrees in some areas are dangerous, life-threatening even. If you have to go outside in conditions like that, exposed skin can get frostbite in minutes. Second, you have got the potential for significant icing. Ice storms are, in my opinion, worse than snowstorms. Snow you can shovel, snowplows can clear. But ice brings down trees. Ice brings down power lines. Ice makes roads absolutely impassable. A half-inch of ice accumulation can cause catastrophic damage. Third, you have got the duration. This is not a quick-moving system. This storm is going to be slow. It is going to take its time, which means some areas could see winter weather for 24, 36, maybe even 48 hours straight. And fourth, you have got the timing. This is happening on a weekend, which is both good and bad. Good because most people will not have to commute to work. Bad because if it causes power outages, it is going to be harder to get crews out to fix things. Let me walk you through the timeline one more time, because this is important. Thursday night into Friday, we start to see precipitation breaking out across the south-central United States. Oklahoma, parts of Kansas, maybe northern Texas. This is when the first snow and ice begins to fall. Friday into Friday night, the precipitation expands eastward and northward. This is when we could see snow in Memphis, potentially Little Rock. This is when the Dallas-Fort Worth area could see icing. This is when things start to get serious. Saturday into Saturday night, the storm is at its peak intensity. This is when we are expecting the heaviest precipitation across the widest area. Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Virginia, maybe into the Carolinas. This is the day that is going to be the worst for most people. Sunday into Monday, the storm begins to move up the eastern seaboard. This is when the Interstate 95 corridor from D.C. to Boston could see significant snow if everything comes together right. By Monday evening, the storm should be moving out over the Atlantic Ocean and we can all start to recover. But here is the thing, and this is really important. That timeline is going to change. The timing could speed up or slow down. The track could shift north or south. The intensity could increase or decrease. This is why you need to keep checking back for updates. Do not watch this video on Monday and then assume you know what is going to happen on Saturday. You need to stay informed as this situation develops. I want to address something that I know some of you are thinking, is this being overhyped? Are we making a bigger deal out of this than it actually is? Here is my answer. I do not think so. The pattern is there, the cold air is there, the moisture is there, the lift is there. All the ingredients for a major winter storm are in place. Could the storm end up being weaker than expected? Sure. Could it shift and miss some areas entirely? Absolutely. But based on what we are seeing right now, the risk is real, and it is significant enough that you should be preparing. I would rather you prepare for a storm that ends up being less severe than expected than be caught off guard by a storm that ends up being worse than expected. That is just smart planning. Now, I mentioned earlier that some of you are going to be disappointed because you are hoping for snow and you are going to get ice instead. Let me talk about that for a second. I know a lot of people love snow. Snow is fun. Snow is pretty. Kids love playing in it. Adults love the excuse to stay home from work. I get it. But ice is not fun. Ice is not pretty. Ice is dangerous and destructive. If you end up on the ice side of this storm, that is not a reason to celebrate. That is a reason to take precautions and stay safe. On the flip side, if you get a foot of heavy, wet snow, that is not all fun and games either. That is a lot of shoveling. That is weight on your roof. That is potential for power outages if trees come down. So whether you get snow or ice, this is a serious weather event that requires respect and preparation. Let me give you one more number to think about. Some of the models are showing snow to liquid ratios that could produce very heavy, wet snow. What does that mean? It means that 6 inches of this snow could weigh as much as 12 inches of light, fluffy snow. That is important because weight is what brings down tree branches and power lines. So even if the snow totals do not sound that impressive, the weight of that snow could still cause problems. Here is something else to consider. If you live in an area that does not usually get snow, you need to be extra careful. I am looking at you, Texas and Louisiana. Your infrastructure is not built for this. Your roads are not treated. Your drivers are not experienced with winter weather. A few inches of snow in Dallas is going to cause a lot more problems than a few inches of snow in Denver, simply because Dallas is not equipped to handle it. And if you live in an area that does get regular winter weather, do not get complacent. This could be a bigger storm than you are used to. This could be a longer duration event than you are used to. Do not assume that just because you have lived through winter storms before, this one is going to be no big deal. We are now at the 5-minute mark, and I promised you at the beginning that I would deliver on my commitment. Here it is. Based on everything we are seeing right now, here is my assessment. If you live in Oklahoma, Kansas, or northern Texas, prepare for snow and ice. Heavy snow is possible, significant icing is possible, and it is too early to say which one you are going to get more of. If you live in Arkansas, Tennessee, or Kentucky, prepare for a mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain. The exact ratio is going to depend on where you are and how the temperature's set up, but you should expect significant winter weather. If you live in the mid-Atlantic states like Virginia, Maryland, or Delaware, keep a very close eye on this storm. If it tracks a certain way, you could see major snow. If it tracks a different way, you could see mostly rain. The difference is going to come down to details that we will not know until later this week. If you live in the Carolinas, prepare for a winter storm that could bring snow, ice, or a mix of both. The mountains are going to see more snow. The coastal areas might see more rain. But the areas in between could see significant icing. If you live in the Northeast from New York up to Boston, this storm has the potential to become a classic nor'easter. If that happens, you could see significant snow Sunday into Monday. But a lot has to come together right for that scenario to play out. And if you live anywhere from the Plains states eastward to the Atlantic coast, prepare for bitter cold temperatures that are going to last for several days. That is my assessment based on the information we have right now. But remember, this is Monday. We have got 4 more days before this storm really gets going. Things are going to change. Models are going to flip-flop. Forecasts are going to be updated. You need to stay informed. Here is what I need you to do right now. 3 things. 1. Comment below with your location so I can create targeted updates for your area. 2. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you do not miss any updates. 3. Share this video with anyone you know who lives in the path of this storm. The more people who are informed and prepared, the better we all are. Tomorrow, we are going to have much more detailed information. We are going to be able to talk about specific snow totals for specific cities. We are going to be able to talk about ice accumulation forecasts. We are going to be able to give you a much clearer picture of what is coming. But I did not want to wait until tomorrow to give you a heads up. This is a major storm. It is going to affect millions of people, and you need to start preparing now. One more thing before I let you go. I mentioned earlier that we might go live during this storm. I want to explain why that is important. When you are dealing with a winter storm, conditions can change rapidly. The line between rain and snow can shift 50 miles in an hour. Ice can start accumulating faster than expected. Wind can pick up and make conditions even more dangerous. By going live, I can give you real-time updates as the situation develops, and you can ask questions and get answers immediately. So make sure you are subscribed, make sure notifications are on, and when we go live, join us. It is going to be an all-hands-on-deck situation, and I want to make sure you have the information you need to stay safe. Now, here is what we are going to cover in tomorrow's update. I am giving you a preview right now so you know to come back. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about specific snow totals by city. We are going to talk about ice accumulation forecasts. We are going to talk about timing hour by hour for different locations. We are going to talk about wind speeds and wind chills. And we are going to talk about what happens after the storm passes and how long it is going to take for things to return to normal. But that is not all. We are also going to address some of the questions that I know you have, like should you travel this weekend? The short answer is no, but we will talk about that more tomorrow. Should you stock up on groceries? Yes, and we will give you a specific list of what to get. What about your pets? We will cover that too. This is going to be a comprehensive update, and you are not going to want to miss it. So again, subscribe, turn on notifications, and come back tomorrow. Before I wrap this up, I want to say one more thing. I know weather forecasts can be frustrating. I know it is annoying when we tell you a big storm is coming and then it shifts and misses your area. I know it is disappointing when we say you might get a foot of snow and you end up with 3 inches. But here is the thing. We are doing the best we can with the information we have. Weather forecasting is not perfect. It is never going to be perfect, but it is a lot better than it used to be, and it is getting better all the time. What I can promise you is that I am going to give you the most accurate, most up-to-date information that I have. I am not going to hype things up just to get views. I am not going to downplay risks just to avoid looking wrong. I am going to tell you what the models are showing, what the trends are, and what my professional assessment is based on years of experience tracking storms like this. And if I am wrong, I will own it. If the storm ends up being weaker than expected, I will tell you why. If it ends up being stronger than expected, I will explain what changed. Transparency and honesty are what you deserve, and that is what you are going to get from me. So here we are. A major winter storm is bearing down on the eastern United States. Tens of millions of people are going to be affected. Snow, ice, and bitter cold are all on the way. The next few days are going to be critical for preparing and staying safe. I need you to comment below with your location. I need you to subscribe and turn on notifications. And I need you to come back tomorrow for a much more detailed update. This is not the last you are going to hear about this storm, not by a long shot. We are going to be covering this every single day until it is over. And when it is happening, we are going to be live, giving you real-time updates. The winter storm of 2026 is coming. Are you ready? Because ready or not, it is going to be here in just a few days. Make sure you are prepared, make sure you stay informed, and make sure you stay safe. I will see you in tomorrow's update. Until then, take care, stay warm, and do not forget to